morning from sunny Australia. This is episode number 56 of So What's Been Happening. Really exciting guest we've got with us today. We've gone a little bit out of our music genre that we've created recently. Was kind of by default that really happened with some great mates and musicians jumping on around the world, which has been awesome. And then in from there, we've had a lot of sports chats, and we've also had a couple of art chats, but in particular, I'm really excited about this one because we actually get to chat incredible detailed art, and we combine sport and music within that. So it's a all eggs one basket today. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to intro this with a little video first, and then we're going to bring up our main man.
Keegan Hall.
Keegan Hall.
Keegan Hall.
Keegan, my man.
Keegan.
The most talented person we ever had on this program.
An unreal talent for bringing real life to paper.
One of the best artists, drawers in the world, hands down.
So I suppose there's no doubt who I'm going to bring up next, Mr. Keegan Hall. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. Episode number 56 of So What's Been Happening. Welcome to the show. Good evening to you in Washington.
Yeah, a little bit of a time difference on the other side of the world here, but no, it's perfect.
Yeah, it is. Tell us a little bit about what life's like right now in Washington.
Well, I mean, like everybody, we're dealing with COVID, but we're pretty good out here in Washington with sticking to the rules, so it's not quite as bad. But we got a nice sunshine summer going on here, so life is good.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. We can't wait for a little bit of summer. We're on the way into our summer period. But we've got to get through a bit more COVID lockdown yet. We're sadly locked down in Melbourne at the moment. I mean, you kind of laugh at our case numbers in compared to what you guys have been used to, but we're sitting at about between 70 and 100 cases a day only, and they've locked the whole state down and most of the country. So it's pretty much like half a dozen countries at the moment in Australia, all locked down borders. No one can move around. The good part about that is some sports are still happening, so they kind of get the golden ticket to move around and play, and we're coming into finals time now, so that'll be a great experience and a good distractor.
Yeah, no kidding. I think sports has been the saving grace. Just at least, going back to the NBA, watching it in the bubble, at least seeing games, and now stadiums are starting to open again, so it's a little sliver of normal life, but we still got a ways to go.
Yeah, just on that, what did you think of the last 18 months in respect of the bubble scenarios? Obviously NHL did it and had some issues along the way, but largely they were pretty good. NBA had the same. NFL being mainly outdoor, and much bigger teams and moving around, they had all different situations as well. So, I mean, I think it got better for this last into the new season now, but it's been 2 seasons now for the NBA nearly.
Yeah, I mean, you realize how big of an impact live crowds have on the game and the experience. In the beginning, you were watching it on TV, at least here in the States, and it was a silent arena other than what's going on in the court. And then I think as they progress and start to figure out how to do this, an online broadcast with no fans, they started interjecting kind of like the fake crowd noise to give you a feeling that it was kind of real. But yeah, it's been weird to see the transition from no fans to now fans, and now going back to maybe no fans again. But I mean, as a sports fan, I think we're just excited to see, the athletes on the field and see some action.
Yeah, definitely. It's been really good. Well, I suppose it's been a pleasant distractor during the lockdown phases that we've had for the last. Sadly, it's been nearly 2 years now for us. So,
crazy.
As it is for you guys. So, look, it makes it a little bit hard to get around, no doubt, and obviously overseas travel's going to be a distant memory for a little while. Sadly, I was involved in a charity called Stop Concussions, which we were bringing out the Canadian and USA ice hockey teams to play to play a series in Australia, all raising money for concussion awareness. And it was right around that phase when the concussion movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was a massive topic at the time, right? But to not be able to do that again, we actually just hosted a virtual game, which, well, virtually meaning brought into Australia, but it was played in Toronto, Canada, just last weekend. So the Canada, USA guys that we could get together that weren't traveling, we put a game together and then streamed it into Australia. So something very different, but you kind of got to make it up as you go these days.
And I've been a part of a few other events because I do a lot of charity events too, and they're used to having big banquets and stuff like that, and all that's even going online. So it's just like, I think everyone's starting to figure out how do we, move around in this new environment that we're kind of stuck within.
We sure are. I mean, people are buying houses online virtually without even going to the house. So that's a pretty crazy experience too. But I suppose it's if we can online shop, we can definitely make the best of buying a house or doing whatever we've got to do to get through, right?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. All right, mate. A little bit about you. Just tell us a little bit about life growing up as a young boy, and obviously, probably well before art kind of gripped you. But what was life like growing up in Washington?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at least for me personally, I grew up relatively poor, really. I lived in a trailer park for most of my childhood up until really I got to high school. So when I got my parents got their first house. So I think, just growing up in that type of environment, you kind of develop a different perspective of the world. And then just to kind of add a little twist into that childhood, I have one sibling who is handicapped. So she has cerebral palsy. So I think just all these dynamics kind of gave me a different view of the world and the people around me. And I mean, it was good and bad, but I think I was a very quiet, shy kid as a result of some of these external factors. And then I kind of gravitated towards art as a result. So I did a lot of drawing, a lot of creative tasks growing up. And then sports was really my other kind of savior to keep me busy. So between those two, I guess sprinkling a little bit of business. Like I was a really big sports card collector and comics. So I would go to all the little card shows and try to like sell and buy and trade my few cards that I had, but just kind of playing in all these different elements as a kid kind of is what I remember as my childhood.
Yeah, look, as we know, sports cards are still really big now, and if anything, probably bigger than when we were kids now. So
yeah,
are you still a collector in that space?
It's funny because it's when I was younger, I basically traded all of my cards, my whole collection, for a single card, and that was a Michael Jordan rookie card. And I think back then it was like $250, but it was like my holy grail card, and I just held on to it, and I still have it. And it's been crazy to kind of see the valuation of that card fluctuate, and then the grading is obviously critical now. And then seeing really the resurgence of sports cards again, and with a little sprinkle of art mixed into a lot of these card companies, has been fun to see as well. So I've been kind of having fun getting back into collecting again and kind of seeing where this hobby is going. And I've been chatting with some of the card companies too about doing my own sets and stuff like that. So no, it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So, and art as a kid, was that sort of in your mix? Like, were you a natural drawer as a kid, or how did it kind of kick off for you that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, there's no artists in my family, so I was kind of an anomaly. I'm from a very blue collar family. Just everyone kind of works in the shop. So having a kid, especially a boy who was interested in art, wasn't the norm in our family at all. But no, so I mentioned I used to collect comics, and I used to get comics not to read them, but just to draw from them. So I would practice, basically getting new comic books and trying to draw all the pictures within those comic books. The Spider-Man's actually, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a wall over here that's the entire wall is Marvel comics of like the old school ones. So it's kind of some of the ones that I grew up on. So it's always been a part of me for sure. And I think as I kind of grew up and got into like high school and I started to dabble with, more realistic drawings, I was always fascinated with, could you take the simplest tool possible, just a pencil, a single pencil, and could you create something that was so detailed that people couldn't tell the difference between that and a photo? So I think that seed was planted very early, and it took me kind of a long time to, figure out my approach to solving that puzzle. I think I'm still trying to figure it out, but that was kind of the fun part is trying to crack that code.
Yeah. I think you got an incredible story, mate. Not just what you're doing now. That's the icing on the cake, I think. But, mate, you go all the way back to when you're a tiny kid that you wouldn't even remember when this incident happened at the baseball. Mate, just tell me a little bit about that story. Like, it's incredible. 9 months old.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been how my life has unraveled. Just a bunch of these just ridiculous events, and obviously that one might be the most ridiculous one. Of 9-month-old baby. Both my parents were really big athletes, loved to play sports, and they actually took me to one of their softball games. So during that game, the players were warming up, and my dad was actually holding me out in the crowd in the stands there. And I remember the shortstop fielded a ball and then just rifled it to the first baseman, and he just missed the first baseman by a mile. The ball flew over his head out into the crowd, and actually my dad was perfectly holding me, hold me, and the ball came and just hit me perfectly on the head. Didn't hit his arm, nothing, right on my skull, like a fastball essentially, and just chaos ensued after that. So obviously the whole crowd started freaking out. My dad was freaking out. No one really knew what to do. So I guess his first reaction was just to take off running towards the parking lot. And that's what he did. He basically tucked me like a football, took off running, and was trying to find his car to get me to the hospital or something. And another person ended up pulling into the parking lot right as he got out there. And as they got out of their car, he basically stole their car, jumped in their car, and just took off. And the fire station was a few miles away, so that was the closest place he could get me to. They quickly assessed the damage of me, and it was obviously far beyond what they could handle there at the fire department or at the fire station. So I got an ambulance and took me to the nearest hospital. And it turned out I had my skull was fractured in 8 spots, and I actually have a few different scars that kind of run across my head of just where the damage was done. But obviously I lived, and I'm still here. And that was the kind of the running joke was, I don't know if that baseball that hit to the head made me way smarter or way dumber than I would have been otherwise, but definitely did something.
Well, I can tell you that baseball had something in it, mate, that gave you an incredible talent. That's for sure.
Rattled my brain and rewired a few circuits, I think. So
yeah, that's it. If you didn't have it then, you had it now.
Still recovering, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Mate, let's move on to sort of what you're doing now. And you I believe, kind of reading your story, that you gave up art for a while, or kind of put it in the back burner, and then now you've really come back to it in the last couple of years. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most people, I had a lot of people telling me that art's not a real career, and you're really not that good, so you should start planning other directions for your life. So as I was coming out of college, I basically listened to all those people and got my degree, and then just went straight into the business world, never to do art again. I just had no plans of ever going back, and just started essentially my business career of sales and marketing and working my way and through that field. Got involved in startups. I actually went back and got my MBA at the University of Washington. So I was all in on the business route, and ran sales and marketing for a startup and had some success there. No art anywhere in this picture until kind of one day, when my life suddenly changed, is when I got that the news that my mom actually had cancer. And we kind of went through the whole cancer treatment one time, and miraculously she beat it. The type of cancer that she had was actually really deadly. So the fact that she overcame it the first time was completely unbelievable. And we were cancer free for 2 years, and then out of nowhere it came back again, and it was, worse than ever. And she was just starting to get back into chemo and radiation and all that stuff, where I just got a call saying, hey, your mom's not feeling well. And this is on a Friday. She went to the hospital on Saturday, the next day, and she actually passed away on the Sunday. So it just happened really, really fast. None of us were expecting anything remotely close to this. We thought she was just going in for, it happens often. You go in, you get fluids or whatever, you recover. A couple days later, you come out. But just to have everything happen so fast, it kind of just shocked me to my core and really forced me to take a step back and reassess my whole life and the direction I was going and what I want to do and the type of impact I want to have on this world. And all these things were just kind of swirling through my head all at one time. And, I remember, probably 2 months after she passed, I was, there was something just pulling at me. I was thinking about her and my childhood and how a lot of our happiest times really revolved around my artwork. She was always my biggest fan and, loved all my crappy drawings I did as a kid. And so for some reason, I just sat down to do a drawing, something I hadn't done in almost 10 years. And my first drawing there was Michael Jordan, who is my favorite player of all time. I just posted that online with no expectations. And, a bunch of friends were like, wow, that's really good. I didn't even know you could draw. My next drawing was Cam Chancellor of the Seattle Seahawks. Posted that one, and he actually shared it. He saw it, shared it on his social media, and asked me to do a piece for him. So right out the gates, I was like, oh, I got all these eyeballs on my work now. Mm. And one thing I like to do with my drawings is really take people through that creation process from the very, very first sketch on the paper all the way through the beginning. So I share those updates on social media daily, or almost daily. And Cam was resharing all of those as I did his drawing. So it just opened up a lot of visibility to my artwork right out the gates. And it kind of led to many more things that I kind of couldn't believe, but I knew right from that day one that I wanted to figure out a way to use my artwork to give back. Yep. And kind of help out kids that were like me growing up, who didn't have a lot of money and didn't have access to a lot of opportunities. And I remember I saw Richard Sherman on Twitter. He had mentioned something about his charity event that was coming up. So I had this idea, and I just randomly sent him a tweet out of nowhere. I'm just some random dude on the internet. And I was like, hey, I got this idea. Like, I'd love to tell you about it. Can I send you a DM? So he's like, yeah. And so I sent him a DM, and it's like, hey, man, so my idea is I want to do a drawing of you, and I want to get 200 prints made, and we're both going to sign them, and we're going to sell them for 200 each. So it's 200 for 200, and I want to donate it all to charity. And I was like, what do you think? And just right away, he was like, let's do it. So it kind of happened just like that, where, I remember we announced this big campaign on Monday, and the on sale date was that Friday, and that whole week was just bonkers. Like, the media picked it up all over, nationally, internationally, about this project. They had kind of my backstory as it came back into art, into this campaign. And by the time Friday rolled around, it sold out on the first day. So we raised $40,000 just like that. And that was kind of the first one of many that would follow.
It's incredible. I mean, an inspiration with a dream, basically, and said, I want to make a difference, and instantly $40,000. Like, that's just incredible. Must give you a hell of a lot of pride from that very first moment to look back on that now, a couple of years on, thinking, hey, that's what kicked it all off for me. So it's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, I always look back on that as from Cam, like, I've developed a really good relationship with a lot of these guys, just from Cam giving me that first exposure to Sherman giving me that first project, and then just watching it kind of pick up steam from there. And obviously just the people, supporting my artwork from the beginning. I think we're all kind of pitching in different ways, from the athletes to my artwork to the community. And it's been so amazing to see what we've done together. And it's kind of really changed my perspective on what art can do and the power of artwork when kind of we all are aligned in the same direction, pulling the same way, and seeing some of the results that we've delivered from this artwork.
Sorry, just had a little audio freeze there for 2 seconds, but all good. I got the gist of that one. Yeah, so I mean, let's start off with one of your the piece that got me first and foremost, and obviously being an incredible Jordan fan, I actually came across this. It was around, I think it was around June last year, around that kind of timing, and I think that's about when you were doing it, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And this piece started to come to me. It wasn't through Instagram. I think I saw the first one of a little piece of the drawing on an Art Jordan fan page. And I saw a little snippet and I thought, wow, what is this? This thing looks incredible. You know, I couldn't tell if it was a little charcoal piece or what. And this was one of the images I think I saw, which obviously you've posted now through your social media. And I think it was, obviously that's a fair way into the phase already, but that moment for me is, I've clearly still got the poster. I had the poster on my wall as a kid, as so many people did around the world. That 88 dunk contest was just epic, right? And to see this, what it became in the end, being this piece, I mean, people are still just captivated by the fact that this is like the trailer said at the start, that this is a real drawing by a real human. And how your mind is programmed to pull that off is just, you know, epic for me. I think it's just incredible. So just tell me a little bit about the man hours in that piece and how it came together.
Yeah, I mean, I think I underestimated when I originally posted about it. I think I put like 250. I think it was way more than that. And I think it took like over 6 months to do. It was just super labor intensive. I would work on it for hours and hours and make like an inch of progress. And I never thought it was going to finish. But what was so interesting is that, you know, when I started the drawing, I was kind of afraid to take on the background. So my original plan was just to blur out the background. So I was going to focus on Jordan and the dunk, and then the people were going to be blurry. So I don't know if you go back and watch the time lapse of the drawing, you'll see like the upper right-hand corner, because I draw right to left because I'm a lefty. The upper right-hand, it starts off a blurry background. And then I'm going down the page and I kind of like think, man, if I'm going to put all these hours into this thing, I might as well just go all out and let me see if I can pull this thing off. So then I go back up to that top corner and then I start working my way down with that sharper, crisper detail. And it was fun as I worked through it and posting, you know, on social media. You know, everyone who already followed me, you know, they really enjoyed the process. But once it was finished and then kind of released out into the world, it was crazy to see the reaction that came after that. And I remember it started with Reddit. So I remember I just posted it on one of the subreddits there. And I went to bed for the night and I woke up the next day and it was like chaos. It was just like thousands and thousands of upvotes. I think now it's like 230 something thousand upvotes. It's like one of the most upvoted posts in the history of all of Reddit. It was crazy. And then just like my website crashed and all these people were sharing it from Reddit to, you know, all across social media. And then the media jumped on board and it was like the USA Today. And like, it was bonkers. I couldn't even keep up with all of it as a result. So it was just so crazy to see these two halves of this kind of slow, laborious process as I was just working my way through the piece. And then just seeing that kind of the other half of it, of all the pandemonium that ensued as people kind of learned about the finished piece itself.
Yeah, and I think one of the little snippets I sort of noticed and found out along the way, which I thought was just one of the coolest thing, was that where's Waldo, where's Wally kind of moment where you threw yourself in just right on the scoring bench there, just in the little right hand side, in amongst some other famous names, mate. It's great. Have you ever done that on any other pieces, or was it a strictly Jordan piece?
No, I started doing that actually. I usually hide myself in different places. Like sometimes it's a person in the crowd, if there's a person in the crowd to be added to, or sometimes I'll just hide myself in like the jersey or something. So you can really got to like seek me out. But ironically, that was one of the pieces because so many people thought it was a fake drawing. They thought it was just a photoshopped filter or something. And then people started to like look through it, and there was all the people that I switched out with, hiding different faces here and there. So people finally realized that it was actually a drawing and not because it didn't match, obviously. So that was one of the saving graces was by putting in those faces. So no, it's been something I've been doing for a while, and I've been doing it kind of on every piece, kind of moving forward if I can.
Yeah, and not only a massive love for Jordan. For me and some of the other pieces you've done are just incredible too. But this one kind of really resonated me, and anyone that knows me just knows that I absolutely love this great man and was shattered like everyone else in the basketball community and around the world when he passed away. So what an epic tribute. What a beautiful picture too. I've seen photos very similar to that. And, for you to be able to capture that, mate, you must be really proud.
That was one of my earlier drawings. That was actually before he had passed. But what was really cool is that somebody purchased a print of that drawing from me and then actually went and had Kobe sign it. So it was cool to know that Kobe got to see my artwork before he passed. He signed the print. So I just wish I could have got my hands on a copy of my own. But that was kind of, at least that was pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah, look, just on that whole story, that the fact that that's happened, and that Kobe did get to see it makes it even more special, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. It's been cool to see. I mean, I never realized, that all these things would grow out of this, me getting back into art, but I've been able to meet so many amazing people along the way, from the artists that I've been able to draw and beyond. So it's been kind of mind-blowing to see, all this thing kind of continually get bigger and bigger and raise more money and kind of see all the tangents that keep jumping off as a result. So I'm just kind of holding on for the ride and seeing where it's going next.
Yeah. And it's speaking of big and big names, if someone doesn't know that little pose, you don't follow basketball, because that's a real epic classic LeBron move that we see pretty much in the start of every game, and that chalk moment that's so captured so well there. I noticed the beauty of just that, even that chalk that sprayed in the air is fantastic, and it didn't need a crowd in that one. But I'm sure you haven't snuck yourself onto the tattoo or anything of LeBron there.
It's funny, a few of the drawings I forgot. I was like, crap, I forgot to draw myself into them. So there's a couple I wish I could have gone back in and add that, like this the one here that I did with Eddie Vedder recently. I forgot to add my face onto that one too. So I was like, there's a few that got away from me, but most of them. Yeah.
Well, let's just move to that one again quickly. 30th anniversary yesterday, which would be your today, of the Alive album for Pearl Jam. Just incredible. I remember literally the day that came out. Mm-hmm. And a good friend of mine said, mate, these guys are going to be huge, and held me up that album. And I was like, huge? Oh, mate, they're pretty good, but I haven't bought it yet, And boy, did I rue that decision or that mistake, and been a massive Pearl Jam fan ever since. But what a massive moment, and to be able to now, for yourself, obviously being Washington, Seattle area, being a huge music fan as well, to be able to put together this story that you've done to work through this piece, I think's incredible as well. This is where it kicked off.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I remember when Chris Cornell passed originally, and I mean, again, growing up in Seattle area, the whole grunge from Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, it just because there's so many historic bands that came out of this area. So when Cornell first passed, there was just something pulling me to do a piece of him. So that's kind of where it started. Is I drew Chris Cornell, posted that, and ended up getting in touch with his family as a result. And so they ended up sharing the drawing there's the drawing on Chris Cornell's official social media accounts. So that kind of got my visibility to that world. And then I remember there was a news station that did an interview, and they're like, "Who do you want to work with next?" And I was like, "Man, my all-time favorite band is Pearl Jam." So that's the one. And I remember the newscaster just looked at the camera and she's like, "Eddie Vedder, if you're out there, like, give him a call." And then I posted that little clip on social media, and that's how it started. We got in contact, and I've been working with Ed, and obviously his wife Jill, and just putting this whole project together. They've been just so cool to work with and supportive, and that was just a crazy project too, because I remember we were trying to figure out the price that we wanted to list the prints at. And I remember Jill was adamant that we price it higher, because she's like, "No, there's like, we could raise a lot more money if we price it higher." And I was kind of like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I want to make sure we sell them all. I don't want to go too high." And I remember we were like, "All right, how about 500?" And I was still kind of like, "Oh, I don't know. 500 seems like it's a high, but I guess let's try it." And then they sold out in less than an hour, and we raised $100,000 in an hour. So it was like bonkers. Jill was right. I can officially admit it now. She was right. We should have went higher. We could have raised a ton more money. But no, it's been cool getting to know them, and hopefully we'll have some future projects together here. So it's been a win all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. And regarding fundraising, I mean, mate, remember that first moment you talked about with that $40,000, which is an epic number, no doubt, to raise at any time, even if it was your whole career you've raised in art now. Mate, tell me where you're up to now. I can't believe the kind of numbers you've pulled in that end back at charities.
Yeah, I mean, we're up over 550,000 now, and it's just growing every day. I mean, I do a lot of these big campaigns with athletes and musicians and stuff like that are just big chunks of money. But then I also just donate prints and stuff to just hundreds of smaller charities that use them for auctions and stuff like that. So it's just been really awesome to be able to kind of utilize my artwork across the board, across the nation, and just have donations come in from all different places and add up to this big number. And I feel like we're just getting started. Like, there's still so much more to go, and hopefully we'll cross that $1 million mark here in the next year or so.
Sure is. And the original pieces, where do they end up? Do you hang on to them, or do they end up with an artist, or what do you do with them?
Yeah, it depends. So usually, so sometimes they're commissioned in advance. So somebody like, "Hey, I want to do a drawing of Chris Cornell or whoever," and then I'll do the drawing for them and make prints. And then sometimes we'll get in touch with that athlete or artist later, and we'll put it together that way. Sometimes, but typically I just sell them separately if it's not commissioned in advance. So this Eddie Vedder one, people have been blowing me up because we're going to sell it. I'm going to sell the Eddie Vedder original. I still have it. But I don't really keep most of them. They all get sold in some form or another, because it takes so long for me to do each drawing. I'm like sick of them after I've been staring at them for months and months. I'm ready for them to find a new home.
Yeah, and that's a special thing too, isn't it? To be able to hang your original art on someone else's wall. I think that's that to be able to put that in someone else's lounge room, pool room, whatever, wherever they want to put it in their office.
I still can't believe it when even the originals or prints, when I see like people will send me pictures and they'll have like a whole room with 10 prints of mine. And I'm just like, holy crap, man, I can't even believe it that, someone would want to get one print, let alone 10. And it's just so cool to see people just get behind my art and get as excited as I am about it. Cause I love sports and giving back and bringing new people maybe into the art world. I think that's been a fun part too, is like the art industry in general can be a little bit scary, I think, to the average person. You walk into a gallery and it's kind of like, depending on the gallery you go into, it can be a little bit, pretentious or whatever, make you feel like you don't belong. So I try to like really bring in people by, this isn't, a dot on a canvas that you got to like figure out what the hell I'm trying to create here. I'm trying to make it look like it's supposed to look, like the photographs, so people can like maybe appreciate it and not be so, scared by the art world. So it's been fun bringing in a whole new group of people, that sports fan, into the art world and having them get excited about art as well. So it's just been cool from all different angles, from the new fans to the charities to the athletes, and just wrapping them all up together.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'm just going to bring up another mate of ours that's normally on the show, and he's decided to come in after half an hour. So just bear with me for one sec. His name's Glenn Cuz. G'day, Cuz.
G'day, Az. Keegan, mate, thanks for coming on the show, mate. Just listening in the background, listening to you talk about your work. Mate, what an honour that you share your work with others, and like the gift you have. Like just looking at some of your back work, and obviously as being a huge basketball fan, I've got a couple of teenage boys who love their basketball, and obviously Az has introduced me into the local sort of music scene from an Australian point of view, and the Chris Cornell picture, the Eddie Vedder picture, mate. Amazing work that you do, and also the philanthropic side of it, where you're raising money for others, mate. That must be very rewarding as well.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate those kind of words. And that was the goal from the beginning. Like literally day one was trying to figure out a way to use my art to give back, and coming up with this 200 for 200 campaign. Like I didn't really know if it would work, and it's been cool to not only see that it worked, but it worked really, really well. And we've been able to help so many people as a result. So, man, I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm still learning to draw. Like each drawing that I do, I feel like I learn something different. And that's what's been fun, because I feel like a lot of people are also either learning to draw or they want to get back into art. So they kind of see one of my posts, and I'm taking people through the process of, hey, man, I'm at this stage right now, and I'm trying to figure out how to, render this and get the shading just right. And people can kind of come through the process with me and hopefully learn a little bit as we go. So yeah, we're just touching on all kinds of things as we kind of create art together, and hopefully make the world a little bit better place as a result.
Look, and that's fantastic, mate. Look, I don't know whether you've seen any of our other podcasts, but we've had some amazing guests on who, to Az and I think Az won't mind me saying this, where our talent pool isn't quite to the level of you artists, whether it's been musicians, sports people, illustrators like yourself. But the thing that amazes me about so many people like yourself who have got this amazing gift is, one, the willingness to share that gift with others, but also the humility and how humble you are about the gift that you have, which to me I think is fantastic. Which that's probably the greatest gift of the gift that you have, if that makes sense, that you are aware of it, but it's not something that you hide and keep to yourself. You're more than willing to share it. So again, mate, thanks for that. And as I said, look, I'd love you to teach me to draw, mate, but I think you'd be pushing the proverbial, uphill to try to do that. I'm a bit of a man myself.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if this is typical for most artists, but I still feel like I'm not that good. Like I look back at every drawing that I've done in the past, and I see all the things that's wrong with it. And it's like, oh man, that should have been better there. And all these things are always nagging at me. And I take, all these things on my back as I go into the next drawing and try to make it better. So in a lot of ways, I still like, I'm still learning too. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go as well. So yeah, we're all in that same boat, trying to learn together. So if I can help other people out, or they can learn from my process or whatever, I'm happy to share what I'm doing.
Have you got a favorite one of the ones you've done, Keegan? Have you got one that you sort of think, geez, as you said, you are a harsh critic of yourself, but one that you look at and think, geez, I nailed that pretty well?
Yeah, what's crazy is that every drawing that I've done has a kind of a crazy story behind it.
Yep.
Like almost every single drawing, where you could just pick one out and I'll be like, well, you're not going to believe this story. Like whether it's, doing a piece for President Obama to, the Eddie Vedder, Russell Wilson, and working with Sierra. But obviously in terms of just really kind of reaching the pinnacle so far of my artwork, I would say that's the Jordan one, because it's just, Jordan's always been my guy too, my favorite player, and the image itself is so iconic and just so difficult, and I just went all in trying to make it happen, and it came out pretty close as I hope, but still, even that, when I look back and I'm like, oh man, I could have done that better. And so I got another one coming up here that's gonna push me to that level again. So stay tuned.
And as I said, I came on probably halfway through the show. Have you had any feedback from the great man himself? Has he seen the picture or whatever?
He has actually. Yep. Yeah. So I got to meet him.
Yep.
Which is obviously like a dream come true for me.
Yep.
So yeah, that was, and we got some stuff that we're working on together actually. So can't share too many details about that yet, but
we appreciate the little teaser, mate. That'd be great to have a look at down the track.
Yeah, it's been crazy just to see. I mean, all my childhood heroes, just like getting to meet these guys and even work with them and hear them talk about my artwork. I'm like, what? Like when they're telling me that they like my work, and I'm just looking back at them like, are you crazy, dude? You're like, you're my hero. What are you saying to me? Like, what? This is bonkers. So it's just been so cool to see all the different aspects and getting to know these people as people and not just, you put them on these pedestals, which I've done my whole life, right? Now with all these athletes and musicians, and they're like bigger than life, and you get to meet them on a one-on-one basis and get to know them as a person. And it's just so much more rewarding to that they are the great people that you hope that they would be. So that's been the case for everyone I've worked with so far.
Have you had those pinch yourself moments at any stage meeting some of these superstars of the world now that you're kind of pretty connected to them now?
I mean, at every stage, it's like every one that I do is just like bigger than the next, it seems like. And I'm just like, oh my God, this one. And then like, it's like, oh my God, that one. And then like, yeah. So it's like, it's kind of this never ending ride that just keeps on growing. Like the roller coaster keeps getting higher, and I don't know how high it's going to go, but I'm just like trying to hold on for it. And it's been awesome just to see, the projects grow too into bigger projects and raising more money with bigger goals. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I mean, from start to finish, just, I think going back to my childhood, or probably a lot of childhood, and like, man, if I could make a living as an artist, that's the dream job. Like that's the one thing I would trade it all for, and never think that would ever be a reality. And just to know that, I put in all these hours to make it a reality. I mean, a lot of people don't know, when I was first getting back into art, I had a day job for a long time, and I would, get up early in the morning and then, go to work, and you get back at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. You spend a few hours with the family, and then it was like back to my little art studio, at like 8, 9 o'clock at night until, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I just did that every single night, trying to learn to draw again and get those reps and put in that time and create the work that would ultimately lead me to where I'm at now. But it didn't just happen, in some respects it happened overnight, but in other respects, like I put in more than my 10,000 hours, over my lifetime learning to draw. And then, just trying to get this whole thing off the ground again, kind of doubling down that time. So there's a lot of times I'll go around to schools. I speak at a lot of schools now and share my story. And, I started here, and then this happened, and that happened, and that happened. And it's like, but kind of the reoccurring theme throughout this is kind of like that hard work, determination, being a good person. And I think when it comes to like giving back, that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned is like when you're giving without any expectation to receive back, like that's all I was doing, was just giving money. Like I think when I reach out to these athletes, I'm like, hey, I want to do this project, and I want to donate all of the money to charity, to your charity or whatever. I think they don't even believe me at first. They think it's like a scam or something. But that's like where my head's always been at. So I just give away all this, all these funds, and then without any expectation, but like it comes back in different ways. So it's like the more you give, the more you get. So that's always like the message I'm trying to share too. So it's like, man, people just keep on supporting me, and this thing keeps growing. We're growing this thing together. It's not just me. It's not just the athletes. It's it's like it's like thousands of people around the world, like this podcast, like we're all just like pitching in a little bit at a time and like growing this message, and like there's no end to what we could do.
Yeah, I think it was beautiful. I caught one of your, I think it was your Facebook lives, or might have been your Instagram live, that you had a little art class not long ago. It seemed like it was only about a week ago, with some, they look like primary school kids, or maybe even younger. And it was a massive moment for me, being a huge Star Wars fan, to see you putting together this little baby Yoda drawing class. I kind of felt like pulling out the sketch pad myself, but some of those kids were incredible. Like, you're obviously a great teacher quickly. Those kids were good.
I've always been surprised by that, because, you know, I think usually with the older kids, like high school, I usually just go and like talk to them and they can absorb the message because they're a little bit older. But for the younger kids, we usually do some type of lesson, right? And I try to pick like characters that I think they could draw, like more cartoony type things. And like, I'm always amazed. Like, these kids are good. Like, I need to pick like some harder material for them to go after, because they're getting it down pretty quickly. So it's been fun to get to see the kids not only produce artwork, but then be proud of what they made after. And hopefully we're just planting a little seed of creation that will grow into something that, you know, they can have a lifelong, you know, fascination of art and making stuff and just seeing what they're capable of too.
Yeah, definitely. And one beautiful image that you've done recently was the ex-president of the United States, Obama, and his wife, Michelle. And I think this is a beautiful pick. Not only is it a beautiful pick because it's the two of them, but it was such a great moment, and it showed so many things about Obama and the leading lady, obviously, and the first lady. And it's kind of potentially could be a little look into the future. Who knows? With swapping reigns, and maybe the leading lady or the first lady could become the next president. Who knows? But yeah, it must be a really proud piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, every drawing has a crazy story behind it. That one is no exception. I basically was given free reign to create a piece of artwork of whatever I wanted, and it was going to be it was going to be a gift for the president. And I was just trying to think of like what, like he's the president. He could have anything. People will probably produce artwork of him a million times. But if I was in his shoes, what would I want? And I would want something of my wife, really, as the feature. So that was kind of like where I started with it. So I really wanted to feature Michelle, and he's in there too. You know, you can see like the back of his head. He's in there, but it was really to put the spotlight on her, and then, you know, to have it, you know, delivered to him. And then, you know, maybe you read about it, but it's basically, I was told, since it's officially a gift from the state of Washington, that it can only end up in one or two places. Either he's going to keep it because he wants it in his personal collection at his house, or it'll be on display at the presidential library that's being built in Chicago. So it's like, if I get to see it again, cool. I'll see it in Chicago. If I don't get to see it again, I guess that's even cooler because it's in his house. So we'll see what happens with that one.
That is absolutely cool. I know Cuz has got a question for you.
Mate, again, amazing stories. The wonderful guests that we've had on the show, and obviously you hold your place in that group very well. And I'm looking forward to your answer, probably more than other guests, with obviously some of the people you've had the pleasure of working with. I asked this question. You can host a dinner party, Keegan. Now, obviously, you're the host. You can invite any 5 people you like. They can be living or dead. Who are the 5 people you're going to invite?
5, man, that's a lot. That's a lot of people. You know, growing up, I was always a big fan of the Renaissance. Like you know, the Renaissance era of the art period. So, you know, I was fortunate when I was in art school at the University of Washington. I got to study abroad. So I lived in Rome, Italy, and got to travel all over the place. So, you know, this could count as one, but like all the Ninja Turtles, right? Like Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, you know,
Yep.
I want all of them for sure. Da Vinci was probably my favorite artist if I had to pick one. So, because there's not a lot of artists that I really follow or learn from. Like historically, I took all the art classes and I absorbed all of it, but it was really the guys that did the more realistic stuff, whether it's the sketches or the paintings, that I kind of gravitate towards. So that would definitely be in there. But then, obviously I'd have to go into like the sports and the music world. I would love to have just people that live these unreal lives that most people can't even imagine what a day in the life would be, whether it's, Michael Jordan, the Beatles. Like, what would it be like being a Beatle, man, in their heyday? Or Elvis? Like, you can't even, Michael Jackson, people just like drop into their, like, passing out looking at you, and just the stories that the stories that they would have to tell. And actually for me, honestly, when I meet all these people, athletes, entertainers, whatever, I don't ask them anything about their craft. I think they're used to hearing that all the time. So like all these people that I would have at my dinner, the Michael Jordans, Eddie Vedders, the Da Vinci's, like I probably wouldn't really talk a lot about what they do, because that's the obvious stuff. That's what they talk about all the time. Like I want to get to know them as a person, because I think that once you start peeling back the layers, you get to know them on a different level, and you can you start getting at some of the clues as to why they are so good at what they do. And everyone has a kind of a little different wrinkle to their puzzle that they're trying to solve. And I think that's just so fascinating for me to learn about other people and why they do what they do, especially the people that have become so successful. Because I think people have this notion of like, oh, if I make $10 million, I'll just live on an island for the rest of my life. And then, but these people there's no limit to the money that these people have. So that's obviously not the driving force. So like, what is that driving force? And I'm always fascinated at what makes people go and what gets them excited and what makes them keep moving forward, trying to be the best. Like, what is that inner motivation that gets them going? So that's always what I talk about with these people, of just like getting to know them and their approach. Like when I was with Eddie, I was really curious, about, how he creates, I guess, how he creates art. What is his motivation? How does he start, crafting a song, something like that? Or, what are things that they like to do outside of, sports or music or things like that? Because I think that you can find out more about a person and what they do on their downtime than what they do with their training time or music time or whatever that is, right? So no, it would be a wild dinner with probably a pretty eclectic group.
That's an amazing thing you say that too, because in as an fan and doing the podcast and speaking to immensely talented people like yourself, initially we would think, and I think Az would agree with me here, that we would have nothing in common with these people. But as you said, even when you speak to someone like an Eddie Vedder who you've spoken to, it's amazing how you find little things that you both have in common. What drives you to do what you do, or what drives me to do what I do. So that's an amazing thing that you say, that you would ask them and ask those sort of questions. And mate, thank you for continuing the good tradition. I think of all the lovely, amazing guests we've had on the podcast, I think we're up to episode 55. I mean, one of our guests have actually invited their partner to dinner. Everyone's invited all these famous people, but the partner's like, we have dinner with them every night. So they're not going to come to our big dinner. We'll tell them who we had there, but yeah. But it's amazing how you want to find out what make people tick. I'm a bit like that myself. It's amazing how you can, when you speak to somebody and actually speak and then listen to somebody, how much you can learn from them about what makes them tick.
Yeah, I mean, you realize that they're just people, right? And like, they get asked the same question a million times, right? Over and over again, like the same thing. Or people are just, or they don't even get to talk. People are just like, you're so good at what you do, and I love you. And it's just like, what a crazy life to live, to have that type of adoration, right? So I think when you can kind of remove that element from the conversation completely, I think they can lower down their guard a little bit too and open up. And the conversations are just so much more fruitful as a result.
Definitely. I want to finish off today, and we could talk for hours, mate. I really appreciate you coming on. We've had an absolute ball getting you on as one of our one of our first actual real life artists that's doing something different outside of the music and sport genres, but also the fact that you're still combining those two loves. And I think that's an incredible thing. But one of the current pieces you're working on that I'm following you epically on Instagram at the moment with this, we talked about famous poses. Now this could be one of many guitarists because it's that classic guitar pose. But I think the incredible part about this piece is the angle and the fact that it's pulled back. And you've set yourself another massive challenge here because this is going to be as epic as the Jordan piece, no doubt. Just tell us a little bit about this piece from with featuring Dave Grohl.
Yeah, so Dave Grohl, that's the one I'm working on now. And it's funny, when I first started drawing, it's always fun for me to see if people can guess who I'm drawing. And I try to make it really hard. Like it's only the first few sketch lines of getting it roughly laid out. Yeah, that one, I was thinking no one's gonna, like, you can't really tell anything from that. And like people got it. So I'm like, damn, how the hell are people getting this? I gotta make it a little bit more challenging as I approach my next one. But it's this is another one similar to the Jordan piece. There's just like a massive crowd, lots of faces. The perspective is there. Like you really want to get that depth built into it, and then bring it all together into what looks like a photograph, right? So it's been challenging. I'm getting close to finishing. I think I've hidden myself in this one, so I'm in the crowd somewhere. So you have to be on the lookout for that one.
Super.
And then I heard I got a message from the Foo Fighters team. So we're gonna have a call soon about something. So it's been cool to be able to see, artwork travel to and get in front of these people, that you never thought you would get in front of, and they get to see your artwork, and who knows what's gonna come from it. But hopefully I'll finish it the next week or so, and then on to the next one, baby.
Awesome. Well, I can see I can see a little gap in there, mate, in where you're up to at the moment, and being a massive Foo Fighters fan myself. I'd love to see my little head thrown in there somewhere, mate. I'll issue you a little challenge.
Yeah, I got a few faces here, so I just got to find one that would suit you.
I bet you've had a few requests to put me in there, get me in.
always, yeah. It's been fun. Sometimes I mix it in, and sometimes if it's like commissioned for a specific person, they probably want it more true to the original image as possible. So it's like a balancing act.
Yep. When was that show? Can you give us a little light on that one?
I want to say this one was, 2012. I have it saved somewhere here, but I want to say like 2012. It might even have been, I want to say like England or something.
Yep. I can tell you one thing we just look into the world of these musicians, and what a feeling that must be. Obviously the Jordan dunk comp, that's a moment, right? One of those moments. But to be standing even on stage as that musician must be just incredible. But to be even in that position where that photographer took that shot, the energy of that kind of feeling would just be incredible, wouldn't it? That many people singing your song. Man. I mean, what a beautiful piece of art that is as well.
I mean, I have no musical talent. I can't sing. I can't play any instruments. But if I could, that rock star feeling, like you're describing, of being on the stage with that many thousands of people, just rocking to your music as you're just crushing it. Like, I can't even imagine that sensation that would rush through your body. I think the closest thing would be, sporting event, right? So I've been to sporting events. I've played in some that haven't had that big of a crowd, but even when I've been, some of my art has been featured, or I've been at some of the stadiums with my artwork being displayed. It's like I get a little sliver of what that might be like. But man, unbelievable even having that small exposure. Like the Seattle Sounders, our soccer team here in Seattle, we did a project where they gave out 20,000 of my prints as a fan giveaway. So there was a whole like autograph signing session at the stadium, and it was just crazy to see people come out and want to get signatures and my artwork on the big screen, and it's just like wild to be kind of injected into that kind of big time experience.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other pieces that I think's just one of those incredible moments as well was this was the in phase as you were coming through that into the the working through the stages, and then to finish with this just incredible pose of Chris Cornell. Mate, he'll be remembered for a long time, that's for sure. And you've really etched that piece into the memory of all Soundgarden fans.
Man, yeah, that was definitely a tough one for me, but I originally connected with his personal photographer that traveled with the family for years and years and years, and we were originally putting together a project for the foundation, and he gave me access to like his vault of photos and videos. And it was amazing just to look through. It was actually a different photographer than that particular image, but this was like in between that. So it was just amazing to see all these different shots and these different videos of Chris of like off stage, right? So he's not putting on a show, but you see the person. And it was really kind of touching for me that the first Cornell drawing that I did, that photographer that knew him so well, he was just like, man, Chris would have loved this. Yeah, that one. He's like, Chris would have loved this. So it was just so cool to hear that from somebody who knew him so well, Yeah. And then, so it was a cool moment for me to even get that kind of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. It gives me goosebumps of that story, knowing that we've sent some love up to Chris to enjoy, mate, because that you're incredible, mate. You're incredible at what you do. Keep it going. That's for sure. I know you got some incredibly exciting projects that you've got bubbling along, and you're going to have many more in the future, giving back so much money to so many people who really need it. And the fact that you can give and help someone like Eddie Vedder with more reach for the charities that they're involved in, mate, that must make you very proud for sure.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's the most rewarding thing you could do is, being able to give to somebody and help somebody in need. I mean, all these different charities have such big missions that impact real lives. And it's like, what more could you want? Like for me to be able to do art and give back, I mean, it's like, what more could I possibly ask for than the combination of these things? So it's been pretty rewarding.
It's fantastic.
Great to hear. Keegan Hall, thanks for joining us, mate, on episode 56 of So What's Been Happening. Thanks for connecting together. We'll follow you.
Appreciate it, mate.
We'll follow you epically, mate, on everything you got coming up, and we'll help spread the love anytime we can. So look forward to having a chat to you about when you get those next couple of pieces done. Maybe we'll get you back on and push out a release.
Anytime, man. I had fun, man. Thanks for having me, and look forward to my next visit.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much, Keegan.
We're just going to leave in the background that great shot of Kobe Bryant.
Cool.
Cheers, guys.